Hey, shalom, shalom. Following Yeshua. Welcome again to Drought. I just want to explain something because I think that I don't think that a lot of people understand the way food shortages, famines work. Oftentimes, famines and food shortages, I say famines, are started off with drought. If you look in the Bible, you will see that when there were times of little or no rain, for instance, we'll use the story of Elijah. There were food shortages. That's for the story of the woman that had her son, and Elijah, went into her house and told her, feed me and make the last cake for me, and your oil and your flour never go empty. That was started from a drought. Now, in this country today, because everything is interconnected, you'll be surprised to find out that a large majority of your food from your Walmart or your major food chain does not come locally. It comes from across the country. It may come from a different country. And many, many countries right now are experiencing drought. Now, let's also link that with the fact that even if you have rain in your area, the area you are in, your food may not come from that area. For instance, California produces 50. I'll say I can't remember, a large portion of this country's food, crops, things like that. A large portion of this country's rice that is grown domestically is grown in central Arkansas, and these areas have experienced drought. I have talked to guys I didn't even know was at one of the local Walmarts here in the Ozarks, and guy had a tractor, a trailer, a flatbed trailer, semi-truck trailer, a load full of round bales of hay. I mean, I'm talking like 2 wide, going all the way back, probably 3 high. And he was coming all the way from Texas to get hay because there's no hay in Texas. Now, Texas got a lot of rain, but that rain in Texas, it's too late. They're not going to be able to get a second cutting for most of those farmers. So I have reports from friends, brothers in Idaho that are talking about there are trailers truck trailers driving out to Idaho from Texas to get hay, to feed their animals, to feed the beef, the cows that they have, and whatever they're growing out there. So it's affecting everybody. And the guy that I talked to said that he had 3 more trips he had to make out here to get hay. Again, he's coming all the way from Texas. That should give you an idea of how bad this drought is. And this drought is also affecting other countries. So, with all these things taking place, that's going to affect food and food production. Not even just this year. You're going to see the problem exacerbated next year. Also, you have to understand that in a lot of these areas that did not get rain for 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, month and a half at a time, when they got the rain, they got it all at once. So the fields went from being rock hard because they were dry to getting a deluge of water, and the soil was not able to absorb all that water. So you have topsoil being washed away. You had flash floods that came. You had crops that were in the field get destroyed because literally it rained so hard, and if you don't have rain for, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then you get 2 or 3 inches of rain all at once, you're talking about a large, there's going to be some topsoil being washed away. So a lot of these farmers lost their topsoil and are wondering how they're going to grow. There are the auction houses all across this country now are packed with people trying to get rid of their cattle. Packed with them. Now, that's just to set a stage so that people will understand that food shortages do happen. It's biblical. In the Bible, Yah's people notoriously moved. Look at the story of Jacob. They had to go into Egypt to get food. Ruth, the story of Ruth. There was a famine in the land, and they went back to their own people. Ruth followed Naomi to Naomi's people. Famines in land, food shortages, and we don't understand that because most of us don't live an agricultural lifestyle. All we do is we go to the grocery store. But you have to remember that food in the grocery store that you're buying, if you're not growing it, if it's not coming from you, it's coming from somewhere. And largely, this whole country this year has been affected by drought. The whole country has. And then when it wasn't drought, it was too much rain all at once. Europe is going through a massive drought right now. The West Coast, again, where we get a lot of our food from, is going through a massive drought. Now there's fires. So after drought, now places are burning up. You have full orchards. I got pictures of them. Orchards of fruit that is being grown. Well, was being grown. Nothing. Trees are dying. Grape vineyards dying. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of Florida oranges get shipped to California, a lot of California oranges get shipped to Florida, which doesn't make any sense, but that's part of that whole globalism, interstate travel, interstate, commerce, all that stuff. So everyone's being affected. Even if you're in an area where you've gotten ample rain, you're going to be affected because unless you're growing your food, the food that you're getting is coming from somewhere else. That probably has been affected, which means you're talking about higher prices for food. You're talking about the possibility that there just may not be enough. And you add all that in to the fact that when people are unable to pay their bills, when people are unable to keep warm, the energy crises that are taking place. When people are unable to pay their bills, they're going to lose it. So what's going to happen if food prices keep going higher and higher? Even if, again, in your area there is food, some you're not maybe you're not as bad affected as the next area. The prices of food are going to go up, which means people are not going to be able to afford the food, which means there's a possibility of riots. There's a possibility of having food riots. And most people in this country, we don't understand what that means. We don't understand what a food riot is because there's always been ample food. There's always been ample rain. There's always been ample water. There's always been. You turn on the tap, water comes out. You go to your store, there's food in the shelves. And we've gotten used to the fact that we go to some of these stores and there is no food in the shelf. You're looking for your flour and it's not there. You're looking for your cooking oil, it's not there. You're looking for your pastas, it's not there. You're looking for your meats, they're not there. You're looking for your chicken, it's not there. And I'm trying to put this idea inside of our heads so that we can fully understand what it is that is coming this winter, this fall, this winter, and especially going into next year. What people don't understand is a lot of this cattle, that are being damaged in forced killings or sell-offs, this is going to affect next year worse than it is this year. What you're seeing is the impact is not going to be felt fully until next year. And if next year we have the same problem, same situation, 2024 is going to be even worse than 2023, and 2023 is going to be worse than this year is. I'm just trying to paint the picture. I want you to understand. There are ketchup manufacturers talking about there's not going to be enough ketchup this year because tomato harvests have been destroyed by drought. If you don't know what you know about tomatoes, when there's a drought and then when it rains, what the tomato oftentimes does that's developing is it'll start absorbing as much water as it can and then it splits because it was dry conditions and then it rains and then it overdrinks itself to the point where the tomato splits, and usually those tomatoes are no good because mass production of tomatoes, they're not out there in the field tracking which tomatoes, oh, this is a bad tomato. No, they don't do that. They have a harvest time and they go out there and harvest all the tomatoes. And what tomato farmers are saying is that there's not going to be very many tomatoes on their farm or this farm or that farm. Farmers are going out of business. Farmers are selling out. Just sitting there at the auction and looking at the amount of people who have small time herds of goats. I'm talking 40, 50 goats, 30, 40 sheep, selling out, selling the farm, selling the equipment, selling the animals, and they're calling it quits. That's going to affect your food. That's going to affect my food. That's going to affect people's ability to eat. Even if your vegetables, most people who avow themselves to the vegetarian lifestyle, you're not growing your food. I would roughly say what 80 to 90% of the vegetables that you eat come from where? The grocery store, Sprouts, your local farmers market, things like that. Your local organic store. See, these things are going to play a role, and it all starts from drought. And drought is affecting, from what I'm reading and seeing, almost every country is experiencing form of drought. Look at what's happening in Mexico right now. This has nothing to do with drought, but you see in Mexico and TJ, they're issuing. I used to go to TJ all the time. I used to go to Tijuana all the time. They're issuing travel bans because of the wars that are taking place over there. Society is crumbling. What people used to hide and do is now coming to the light. It's coming to the forefront. It's coming. The wickedness is coming to the forefront. We have famines. We have a drought that could very easily lead to famine, or at least to exorbitant. It could lead to localized famines. There may be a famine in a certain area. There may be certain areas that aren't able to get food, and because we are so dependent on that, you have to take these things into consideration. That not looking good. And I want to put these things into your mind so that you can start thinking about what it looks like. What would it look like for you if 2023 is worse than 2022? What would it look like for you if you go to your grocery store and you're not able to? I mean, we're in the doggone middle of the summer and there are stores that don't have chicken on the shelves. Literally. Their freezers don't have chicken. You're walking by freezer sections in stores and the frozen potatoes. Now, I don't eat the frozen potatoes, but the frozen potatoes are out. Potatoes by themselves have doubled and in some places tripled in price. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about it, put it in your mind, and start figuring things out. Especially considering you have opportunities now to make certain moves. I want you to think about that. All right. And also, like I said, I said before, please look behind the things that I'm saying. You go do the research. I know of a lot of us, we live, we just go to the grocery store. That's all we care about. The closest thing we care about food prices is, do we have a coupon for that? But what happens if it gets worse? What happens if all these things collide? What happens if what happened in the Bible happens to modern day America? Or are we so spoiled that we think it can never happen here? Shalom.